it's just something about Haiti once you land and once you touch down and hit that tarmac, and once you're welcomed and greeted by the people with so much warmth, that's when you start to really understand what Haiti really is.
Welcome to Locales Unknown. This podcast gives you the tools you need to choose your next travel destination and the tips you want to be able to explore like a local. Here are your hosts, Chris and Winfield.
Hello, everyone. Today we're here with Cliff Liautaud. He is our mutual friend from college, and I recently had the privilege of visiting Haiti with him in February. We had an amazing time down there, and he's going to tell us everything you need to know, what you need to plan for, look out for, and a few off-the-beaten-track specialties that not many people have seen. So without further ado, here's our episode with Cliff. Hello, everyone. We're here today with Cliff, a mutual friend of ours that we've known from college for many years. Cliff and I went down to Haiti in February of this year and had an amazing time. Really kind of debunked a lot of the myths that you see in the Western media about the country, because things aren't exactly rosy in terms of headlines. And once you get down there, the warmth of the people and just the environment, it really warmed my heart. And thanks for sharing your country with me, Cliff. And I had a really good time.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you for having me. And like I said, when you were down there, Winfield, it's always a pleasure to just show people, like you said, the true colors, the true characteristics that make Haiti what it is. And it was definitely a great time. And if I could go back there right now, I would.
Indeed. I gotta say, I'm gonna jump in and say I'm very jealous. So these guys got to go on a nice trip. We were talking right before we started recording. I haven't seen Cliff since, what did we say, about 2016. It's been a long time. We all went to college together, and just to hear about their experience, we were excited to have Cliff on. We're thankful that he said yes, and we definitely want to hear all about Haiti and what's going on, really on the ground, and maybe some tips. So really looking forward to it.
Indeed. So, Cliff, why don't you give us a brief background of kind of the history and where things stand currently, please?
Haiti, there's a lot of rich history in Haiti. As warm as the people are, as rich as the country is right now in resources, I think we're also rich in history. So, Haiti was the first Black republic, just to give you some background. So, since then, the country's, from the beginning has had a lot of ups and downs and great times. At one point, Haiti was considered the pearl of the Antilles. So in other words, we were a very prosperous country. We had a lot of resources being exported, and we still do, and we still are rich and in resources. And like Winfield said earlier, the people are really what make the country great. Just in terms of history, going through and giving you guys a summary would be more so just kind of like putting it in perspective. The United States gained its independence in 1776. Haiti became independent in 1804. It's not too long after. And then with its proximity to the United States, that obviously had an impact on just Haiti, and Haiti had an impact on the United States. So just a fun fact is that, Haiti facilitated the Louisiana Purchase, and we had even Haitian soldiers fight in the Civil War, the United States Civil War. So there's a lot of history there. For a small country, we've got a lot going on. And then just to bring, put things in perspective, there's been a lot of, there's been a lot of political instability in Haiti in the past 3-4 decades. And there are a lot of reasons why that is, but the country's been in the headlines been put as this country that's ungovernable, or the place where there's never stability. And, there is some truth to that, but what they fail to mention a lot of times are the positives and the beautiful things about Haiti. And like Winfield saw, it really just takes you going down there. It's not just a matter of reading about it or, looking at like a vlog, someone else's vlog, and seeing how they experienced Haiti. It's really going down there and experiencing for yourself that will show its true colors, just like anywhere else in the world. But it's just something about Haiti once you land and once you touch down and hit that tarmac, and once you're welcomed and greeted by the people with so much warmth, that's when you start to really understand what Haiti really is. So just to give you guys a brief background of my history with Haiti is I grew up there. I left Haiti when I was 16. So I did part of my high school in Haiti, moved to Florida, moved to Virginia. And since I've moved to Virginia, I go back at least a few times a year. And recently was there with Winfield, the Greek time. It was end of February going into March. So I know Haiti. I've been in Haiti, for a while. I've got family there. My parents still live there. So I've got close ties to the country. So hopefully you guys can take what we discuss here today, and hopefully that drives you to visit Haiti one day, so that, like Winfield had the chance to do, is really see it for your own eyes, from your own eyes, and not really what the headlines say. Despite what the headlines say, a lot of times that's really just speaking of one part of Haiti. A lot of times there's turmoil, and it's usually in the capital, but Haiti's a pretty big country. So big in the sense that there are a lot of different aspects and different areas to visit, different regions have different vibes to them. So the headlines usually speak to what's happening within the capital when it comes to violence and insecurity. So I hope this talk allows us to open others' eyes and into visiting for themselves.
No, exactly, and thank you for that overview, Cliff. I think there are a lot of points that you touched on there that were incredibly salient, but going back to just a couple that I noticed when we were there together is that exactly the capital, Port-au-Prince. It's architecturally, I mean, it's basically a capital city that's built into a mountainside, and it's absolutely filled with everything and anything. There's a lot of sights and sounds, a lot of foot traffic, but it has its own unique charm. And we were fortunate to spend some time up north in Cap Haitien, which is a totally different vibe and a totally different city from in every sense of the word. And the mentality and the persona of the people there was very different to Port-au-Prince. So as you said, within a country, there are a lot of different sub and monocultures within rural and areas that are outside of the city. So I think that's something as well, as you said, to Western media perceptions. It's often lost on the people because a lot of times foreign correspondents are solely embedded in the capital city, right? Exactly. They're not going out and meeting the people in the countryside and obtaining their viewpoints on certain things.
Exactly. And I mean, even myself growing up, there were parts of my childhood where, we couldn't even go out there because there was so much trouble within the capital. So on weekends, we couldn't just get up and get in a car and go and visit the countryside or go to a different province or something like that. But over time, with more roads being built and paved down there, and then more just, access to travel resources, I was able to visit different areas of the country. And, I don't blame myself, but I really wish I had done that at an earlier age. But, there's always time. And I have friends who nowadays, they do it a lot on weekends. They just get up and go leave the capital, go visit a different part of the country and just understand home better.
I feel that point can be taken almost to every other developing country around the world per se, just because what you hear in the headlines is never really what's on the ground. We talked about this, Winfield, in our last episode, where, most people are the same around the world. They just want to live a happy, healthy life, take care of their family and enjoy what they have. And unfortunately, a lot of the times you don't get to see that unless you do put your feet on the ground in these countries and go and experience a real casual, nice conversation, interaction. But it sounds, Cliff, like you've seen so much change within your country just growing up and going back there. I mean, the fact that the infrastructure is up and coming, and now your friends have the availability to do things that you weren't able to. I mean, have you seen such a drastic difference just in the last, 20 years or so?
Yeah, I would say so. There's been a difference. I mean, we always had the roads, but now a lot of them are more drivable. You can access them without, necessarily a 4x4. But there has definitely been a drastic change. One of the big changes, I think, that has impacted Haiti both positively and in certain ways in a negative way as well, is really just the access and the ability for everyone to have access to a cell phone and have more ways to share information. So, with certain cell phone provider companies and signal providing companies being implemented and doing business in Haiti within the last 10, 20 years, you've definitely seen more ways for people to connect and communicate with one another. So there's a huge phenomenon where a lot of folks tend to just crowd the capital. The capital is pretty crowded in Haiti. And Winfield saw that himself. I mean, I didn't even have to bring it up to him. I think there was one time you were like, wow, there are a lot of people in the capital compared to Cap Haitien, for example, which is another big city. And fun fact, used to be the capital of Haiti, which in the north. A lot of folks tend to just crowd the capital. And what that does is there's a need for communicating with family back home, in the countryside or in a different province. So I think access to phones and communication has really helped the country. Most of the country is living in poverty. So for many to have access to phones and being able to contact family and share information within the last 10, 20 years, it's been very, very, very helpful in terms of just getting people to connect with one another. But at the same time, there's misinformation and folks use it to spread fear now. You've got people using those broadcast features, for example, on the WhatsApp app, the communication app, to spread misinformation and create chaos and create fear within certain areas of the capital. So, there's always good and bad that comes with technology and with access to new resources. But I think that's the biggest change I've seen compared to when I was growing up there. And then, of course, always like just traffic. Infrastructure down there is not as well set up as other parts, even other Caribbean countries. But that's something that I think is going to be a big issue moving forward. With the number of people who have migrated to the capital, you see so much traffic in so many areas now that I remember growing up, you never really had traffic in those areas, in those neighborhoods. And now, they're just being congested. There's a lot of congestion. Going down to something that I think any one of my friends back home who, drives a car or drives around and uses a car to move around, there's just so many motorcycles now too on the streets. So that's something even the government got involved and tried to, there were talks of the government putting policies in place to prevent the sale of motorcycles, and certain folks were for it and against it, but it's been an issue because we have so many people just needing to get around. And if you have a motorcycle, it's a lot easier to get around and it's a lot cheaper than owning a car as well. But, with that volume increase in motorcycles on the roads, you need the infrastructure, you need the proper roads, you need roads that are large enough to handle the increase in volume. So I think infrastructure is the next biggest issue to tackle in Haiti, outside of just, the unification of just people in different parties down there.
No, exactly. And that is something that you're very aware of as soon as you get on to the ground. I remember I left the airport and it just, wow, okay. You're thrown into the gauntlet. But
Yep.
it's that's what it's all about, right? So I think one of the questions, or one of the first questions for a lot of our listeners, is going to be, is Haiti safe? Because of course we hear all of these, as we've alluded to, all these reports from different sources, whether it's the State Department or whether it's official news media outlets that go to that question. So what would you say to a prospective traveler, somebody it's not their first time overseas, they've been to a few places, they're looking to check out something new?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a question I get asked all the time. Is Haiti safe? Haiti is safe, and it's as safe as you are willing to make it. And just just as it is true with anywhere you go, you can be unsafe, even if you go into one of the lowest crime areas with the lowest crime rate. But there are definitely certain areas that I would say you need to avoid. And Haiti is safe if you make a plan and you um, look into how it is you're going to maneuver while you're down there. You can obviously go down to Haiti and not know anyone, and you're not going to be as safe as someone who says, "Okay, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to read recent reviews. I'm going to keep up on what's happening down there right now." And hopefully, if you have someone like someone like a Cliff that who's from there, and you can talk to them before you get down there, it's absolutely safe. Um, my suggestion to anyone who's going to Haiti and has never been, and doesn't necessarily have family or close friends that live there, I say, determine exactly what you want to see in Haiti. There's so much to see, and not everything is in the capital. And like I said earlier, not everywhere has so many risks associated with them as the capital. So, if you want to see beautiful beaches, there are beautiful beaches in the southern part of the country. There are beautiful beaches in the northern part of the country, which are not necessarily super close to the capital. Obviously, you need to land in either Port-au-Prince or Cap-Haïtien, which is in the north, to access. If you're accessing by air. But I would tell someone, do your research, know what it is you want to see about in Haiti, and then make a plan and hire. There are companies and travel excursion groups who do a really, really good job of setting up and structuring trips so that if someone's never been there, whether they have family there or friends or not, they can at least make it to a hotel or to a resort that has a contract or something in place with these excursion groups, and they can get you to see all the beautiful parts of the country. But again, you're gonna have to plan your trip and not necessarily just go down there. It's not like it's not like a trip to southern Florida or Miami, and then you say, I'm just gonna go down there and then get an Uber. And there are taxi services and there are ways to get around without having a car, but it's not as resourceful as going down to Miami and saying, I'm gonna wing it and go to South Beach. It's definitely safe, but you just have to make a plan. And it's ideal if you know someone who's from there and who has experience traveling within the country. But I've led mission trips with my friend, a good friend of mine, and we've taken 13 students from Indiana and brought them into Haiti and set up ways for them to go and see different parts of the country, do mission work during the day, and then by night we go and visit Port-au-Prince, hit some nightlife, and I welcome them into my own home. So it's possible to do it. It's just a matter of just taking a little bit more time to do some planning.
That's awesome. I've said this before to Winfield, but if you take a look at the U.S. crime rates in various cities, we're not boasting the safest places either. So just because it is a foreign land does not necessarily mean that it's not doable. And I appreciate you shedding light on that. So from what I got out of it, because I haven't been there myself, but it sounds like this is something that I need to map out. So let's say I had 7 days and I flew into Port-au-Prince. What would you recommend as far as how to spend those 7 days? Obviously, I want to have something structured where I do get to my hotel, but I don't want to wing it like I'm in Miami, but I also don't want to have every minute planned. Could you shed some light on what to do?
Absolutely, yeah. First things first, I would decide whether or not you want to land into Port-au-Prince or to Cape Haitian, like I said. So Cape Haitian is in the very northern part of the country, and it's the one it's the coast that's closest to Cuba and Florida. But Port-au-Prince is a little bit further down south, a bit further down south, and that's where that's the capital. That's where most people fly into. So if you're flying into Port-au-Prince, I would say hit up the southern part of the country. There's an area called Lekai, which is actually the tip, closer to the tip of the country, which is near Jamaica. It's the one that's nearest Jamaica. Or you can go to Jacmel. Jacmel's got beautiful beaches as well. The waters are a little bit more rough. So Jacmel is the southeastern city, and it's closer to the Haiti Dominican Republic border. And if you go into Port-au-Prince and you want to hit a few major areas outside of Port-au-Prince, I would go to one of those two. Then I would spend maybe some time, depending on how much, you said 7 days, I would spend a day or two back in Port-au-Prince after going to the beach down in the south. Go back into Port-au-Prince. There's a whole lot to see in Port-au-Prince as well. And, Port-au-Prince is where you're going to see the most, I would say, developed part of Haiti. That's where you're going to see it's a moving, bustling city, very, very, a lot of it's a jungle, like Winfield put it. It's the jungle part of Haiti. It's a true jungle that we have. So there's so many people, congested in one area. I would hit up Port-au-Prince for a day or two, and then I would make my way up either by car or by plane. You can take a small plane, a small, what do you call it, propeller plane. It's about a 20-minute plane ride from Port-au-Prince to the northern part of Haiti, which is in Cap Haitien, or you can go to Las Caobas. There's many different areas in the north that you can go to, but Cap Haitien is, like I said, it used to be the capital, so it's the next major city in Haiti. And then I would spend some time in Cap Haitien. There are beautiful beaches out there as well nearby, and then you can take a very historic and very scenic hike up to the Citadel, which is one of the major attractions really in Haiti. It's a beautiful site. It's really just a fort that was built back in the early 1800s, right after the successful slave rebellion. It was built by Henry Christophe, and he was one of the pioneers, and he built this fort, to protect the independence in hopes that Napoleon would return and come and take revenge. But the fortress is beautiful. Winfield and I actually went there when we were on our trip, and it's about a 6-7 mile hike, all uphill. You can take a donkey, you can take a horse, you can go by foot, you can take a ATV. Winfield and I did it by foot. I don't know if you remember Winfield, but I almost tapped out with like a mile to go.
I kept patting you on the back, man. You're good to go. And we had quite a few people walking with us also.
We had a few tour guides, and it's beautiful up there. And I would suggest if you do take that trip, on day 5 or day 6, make sure you give yourself a day or two to relax by the beach afterwards. Because whether you take a donkey or an ATV, then it's grueling. But we did that, and I would suggest doing that at some point, checking out the northern part of Haiti. And then if you do want to do the beach, you can do it up in the north. Beautiful beaches there, untouched beaches, very, very, very nice. Or you can go down to Saint-Marc area. Saint-Marc is more so in the central plateau, a little more north of the central plateau of Haiti, which is really in the center of the country. And it's on the coast, and you've got great beaches there as well. Very, very beautiful coastlines, and I would do that. And then go back to Port-au-Prince and fly out and maybe experience a day or last 1 or 2 days in Port-au-Prince and check out, some restaurants. We've got great restaurants there, great food. Maybe spend some time and visit different, museums we have down there. Some of them are more insightful than others, but we've got the Musée du Panthéon National, which is the major museum down there in the capital, and it gives you such a great look into Haiti's rich history. So I would definitely hit that up, and then just eat, talk to people, and soak in the warmth that the people have to offer by communicating with the Haitian people.
That sounds awesome. You did say one word at the end there, and it was eat. And the fat kid inside, man, it just makes me think, like, tell me a little bit about the food. That's one thing we talked about.
Haitian food is very, very, very unique in the sense that, because we've got a lot of seafood. Obviously, we're an island. We've got a lot of good seafood, but we eat a lot of pork. Our national dish is griot with banan and riz national, which is like a rice and peas and red beans, rice and beans, I should say. We do love our bananas and plantains, so that's always on the menu. Griot is more like a deep fried pork shoulder. So we We welcome the fat, so you've got all the nice flavor in there with the griot. Again, rice is big in Haitian cuisine, where we always, eat rice. We've got a lot of rice on our menus. And then a big thing too. It's more like West African cuisine mixed with a little bit of French cuisine, obviously, because we were a French colony at one point. And so you have a lot of sauces. So a lot of people ask me sometimes, is it just like Cajun cuisine? Yes, a little bit. A lot of our dishes are very similar to Cajun cuisine, but I would say we've got a lot of West African influences as well in our vegetables and how we do our starches, like our yams and our what they call yuca. We use that as well, but which we prepare differently. I know you're going to Peru soon, Chris, but we do eat a lot of yuca as well. We just prepare it differently. It's usually prepared whole, and then you slice that thing up and eat it up. We've got a lot of sweet potatoes, and our sweet potatoes are very different than sweet potatoes here, for example. But a lot of starches, a lot of rice. Pork is big. We eat a lot of goat meat down there. Goat is really, really common, so we'll do like a fried goat even. We do beef as well, chicken. We really eat everything. There's not a whole lot in terms of protein that we don't eat down there. And then obviously seafood. Seafood is big. A lot of red snapper. We had some octopus even, I think. Remember that one, Field?
Yes,
on the side of the road when we were
we
driving.
did. Caribbean
Yeah,
rock lobster too, which was one of my favorites.
yeah, it was random. We just stopped by on the side of the road, and you see a lot of like side, like a little, what do you call it? Like a
Vendors,
yeah, side vendors, like a kiosk on the side of the road, especially in the provinces. You're not going to pull up to a restaurant. A lot of times you're going to find some stuff off the road, and you can trust them. And for the travelers, for those people who do go to Haiti in the future, you can trust them, but just use your gut. Literally, if you're hungry, use your gut. Look at it first. Ask them, how they prepare it. If it's something that you're not used to eating, or you're not, your stomach's not comfortable with, don't try it. But there's not a whole lot of like spices, I would say, in Haitian food that people don't usually can't stomach. We do use a lot of ghost pepper when it comes to spices. We don't mix a lot of spices up. So I know a lot of folks tend to have issues with that. And obviously, like I said, use your gut, use your eyes, use your nose, and if it smells good, it looks good, try it.
It sounds like it's taken street food to a whole new level. That's for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That octopus that was he had just caught it, and I remember he was dicing it up and just gave it to us, and it was like a octopus ceviche. It was fantastic.
Exactly.
But you have to tell everybody about the picolese. This is this could be the signature dish along with the pork you mentioned, the signature side perhaps of the country.
And see, that's why Winfield was such a good travel partner, is that he just paid attention, and he would remind me like, hey man, we got to do this, or hey, like we gotta talk to this person, we gotta try this right here, because the picolese is also a staple. Funny that you guys, you mentioned that, Winfield, is I went to a Christian missionary school. So I had part of my middle school and high school years, I was at a Christian missionary school down in Port-au-Prince. And so we had a lot of teachers that would be, grew up in the U.S., never really traveled to Port-au-Prince or to Haiti, and they just came down and they worked at the school and they taught, whether it was our social studies, math teachers. We had different teachers for each different subject. So I got to meet a lot of folks who were moving into Haiti for the first time. A lot of them were in their early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s. And so every teacher loved picolese. Like everyone just had a thing for this picolese. And what picolese is, it's a cabbage, and it's spicy cabbage. So it's like shredded, lettuce. You take carrots, so you soak it in vinegar, and then you mix it with a lot of peppers. And then you also put a whole lot of other things. Different people prepare it differently. But think of coleslaw with spicy coleslaw, and it's less milky and creamy than coleslaw. It's more like watery than coleslaw. And then you take it and you serve it usually with plantains, and it's usually in a bowl on the side, and you put that on top of the plantains, or you put that on top of your meat. I preferably like to put it in my rice, and I mix it up with my rice so that every bite I take has rice in it. That's just how I eat. So I take every bite and I just get a nice spice, level of spice with every bite. So pickles is so delicious. And it's funny because everyone who moves to Haiti and has never had anything like pickles, they love it. You know, some people just like it just by itself. And I don't know how people do that, but pickles, if you go to Haiti and you don't have pickles, you never went to Haiti, man.
Why am I envisioning Winfield taking the last bite, maybe taking some extra some rice and making sure he gets all the juices out and everything? Am I on point there or what?
No, on point.
You're outing me, man.
Sounds like Winfield.
No, and we can't forget the drinks as well, because the Clarin, you got to give a little rundown of that, and the Prestige, of course, is a must for the chaser.
Absolutely, the Clarin is it's kind of like our rawest level of alcohol, and it's made. You can make the Clarin, you can make it flavored with all sorts of different flavors. Usually fruit flavored. You can have the lemon one, the citrus one. You can have orange. You can have the raw one. They have the anisette, which is like more of like a licorice taste to it. But yeah, Clarin is very popular in Haiti. It's kind of like our moonshine. And then you've got a lot of rum. So Haiti is known for its rum, sugarcane rum. And Pierre Macul is one of the world-renowned rum brands in Haiti. It's one of the oldest. And you've also got Vieux l'Abbé, you've got Clairin Séjourné, which are all very popular these days on the rum masters, I would say, list. You've also got Clairin Lacaille. You've got, that was an older brand, but you've also got Clairin Sajus. Those are all very, very popular and should be on shelves all over the world. But rum is our go-to liquor, and you can have some of that. And then you've got the Prestige, which is it's a lager. It's a very popular lager in the Caribbean now, and also now well known all over the world because it won world beer in, I think, the year 2000. So it's very, very popular beer. And you know, it's got just everything you would want. It's refreshing. It's not too heavy. I'm not the biggest beer drinker, but I love me a good cold Prestige. So I would definitely suggest having some of that, some rum down there. And if you get access to Clairin, have some Clairin, but be careful because that stuff is pretty strong. It's very, very strong. Again, you'll find Clairin anywhere on the side of the road in Haiti. Most of the time, you'll see a vendor or merchant selling it in a small pocket size. I guess it's like what, 250 or 350 milliliter bottle around there. So that's usually what it's sold in. And you've got people that just buy one of those and just sip on it throughout the day. You don't need a lot to feel it. And if you do try it, just tread lightly is what I would suggest.
No, indeed. And you alluded to it a bit earlier in terms of if someone's going there for adventure or a bit of thrill seeking, the Citadel is definitely a must-see. Largest fortress in the Western Hemisphere, as you said. It's absolutely spectacular. And what really stood out to me is that the walls and all the fortifications were held together with a mix of cow's blood and sand.
Yep, and sugarcane juice. So it's cow's blood, sand, you know, chipped rocks and sugarcane juice. And when you look at this thing, I mean, it looks like it's shaped to look like a boat, right? It's like a huge boat in the front when you walk up to it. It's like a very tall, very, very tall building. It sits at top of a hill. And yeah, the walls are super, super thick. To think that they built all of that by hand and then brought up cannons, these massive cannons and cannonballs all the way from the bottom of the hill all the way up to the Citadel. It's amazing. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so that's pretty cool. So we've got the recognition for it, and yeah, like Winfield said, it's a World Heritage. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fortress. When you get in there, you look at it from afar and you think it looks big, but once you're in there and you see how big it is, they've got courtyards and so many different rooms. It's definitely a great spot to visit. And really, the way you would visit, I would say you got to start in the morning. You go out of Cape Haitian is the biggest city. So you'd go from Cape Haitian and take about a 50-minute car ride down to Milo, Milot, which is where the Citadel lies. And you take a car ride down there. Then right when you get to Milo, you hire a tour guide. Usually, you can either, like I said, hop on a donkey, take it by foot. You can walk half and half, so you can do half by foot, get a donkey halfway, and then do the rest on the donkey or a horse. And yeah, you start around 7, 8 in the morning. You make it to the Citadel by 10 o'clock, and you visit for maybe an hour or two, depending on how in depth of a tour you want. And then you can either ride back down like we did. So we hopped on the back of motorcycles, and we just literally coasted down on neutral on these motorcycles. When Winfield was on one with what was it? We had 3 people on each, right?
Yeah, I was in the middle, 2 dudes.
Yeah. If you hop in the middle and you just literally these guys are on neutral, and you go down
Steep
there.
too, yeah.
Pretty steep, yeah. It's pretty steep, but you get a really, really beautiful view. You're looking out on, you're on top of the world, pretty much. It feels like. And then you can go down there. I've gone down by foot. I've gone down on a horse. I've gone up and down on an ATV, like one of those Can-Ams or the little Polaris ATVs. Those can actually go up there because the road is pretty wide. And definitely do the Citadel if you get a chance. So much history down there. The fact that they built this, like I said, with cow's blood, sugarcane juice, and rocks. And this thing is still standing. It's amazing.
No, indeed. And also going to the adventure side of things as well. I think there was, we tried to fit it in all in one day. So if you have more time, definitely take a little bit more to stop and just decompress. But we took a boat that same day over to Liautaud. And there's a lot over there in terms of, there's a beautiful little l'auberge, which is an inn essentially. Mm-hmm. That's in these little coves. There's also quite a bit of hiking. It looked like almost untouched jungle in some of those parts. The road kind of ends at the port where, is it Royal Caribbean that has their beach
Royal
there?
Caribbean and Carnival. I think it was Royal Caribbean and Carnival.
But there's a lot of, just to tell us a little bit about some of the adventures that you can get into over there.
Yeah, so you can go and stay. There's L'Auberge du Picolet is the one that you mentioned. It's a very nice, it's one of the nicer hotels in Cap. There's Satama, which is another hotel, it's a newer hotel. And that's sitting up on the hills in Cape Haitian, overlooking downtown Cape Haitian. So you can stay there. You can go out to, what is it called? Labadie is where we...
Right, Labadie.
Exactly. Labadie is where most people who have said, okay, I've gone to Haiti and I was on a cruise, that they've gone to Labadie, because that's the only place where cruise ships have access to in Haiti. And that's, again, in the northern part of the country, closer to the Cape Haitian side, Cap Haitien side. And Labadie, the road ends. So if you want to go to different areas or different beaches, there are different coves along the northern coast, you have to take it by boat. So there are small taxi boats that you can hire. You can, pay them in cash, and you take a boat over to, there's one called Paradise Island. There's Amiga Island, or Ile de Ilarat, they call it too. Ilarat is a beautiful little island where you can literally walk the entire island in about 10, 15 minutes, if not less. That's where we went. And they've set up some, campgrounds there where you can camp out. Beautiful, beautiful island. You feel like you're in the middle of the ocean. And then you can do that, or you can take a hike and you can go to Mall Saint-Nicolas. Mall Saint-Nicolas is one of the northernmost tips. I don't know if it's the northernmost, but I think it is the northernmost tip of Haiti. And that's where Columbus landed when he first, saw Haiti. He saw Mall Saint-Nicolas, and they came in there. And that's where they thought, they had hit, India or something like that. And so that's really cool. Not a whole lot there, but the coastline is beautiful. The northern coast of Haiti is really beautiful. You can do that, and then yeah, so that's what you would do if you were in Cape Haitian. And like I said, the best thing you can do is hire a tour guide down there. Some of them will walk up to you out of the airport. I've done it when Phil and we were approached by a gentleman who worked at the airport, and it was really, really cool. The stars aligned in that sense. That's not something I would advise anyone to do. Like I said earlier, if you're traveling and you're with someone who knows Haiti, who's been to Haiti, I would suggest, going through them. But I wouldn't suggest someone who's never been down there to just go and, hire someone out of the airport to drive them around. I was able to speak with this guy in Creole. He knew that I was from Haiti. I'd grown up in Haiti, so obviously he knew that I was knowledgeable when it came down to. I showed him that I knew the Cape Haitian area, but we ended up hiring this guy. We literally hired this guy out of the airport. He was getting off of we were the last plane arriving that day, so he left his work shift. And he's like, hey, how much do you guys, or how much I negotiated with him, how much he was going to drive us to the hotel. And he was only supposed to drive us to the hotel. And on the way to the hotel, he's like, hey, how long are you guys in town for? I'm like, hey, we're here for like 2-3 days. We're just going to get out of Port-au-Prince and check out another part of the country. And he said, okay, well, do you guys have a tour guide? And I said, no, but it would be very convenient. We started negotiating, talking about whether it would be, possible for him to drive us around for the entire weekend or the 2-3 days we were there. And we ended up having a tour guide for the entire time while we were there. He was a really cool guy. His name was Macul. I still keep in touch with him. He still asks for Winfield. And, Winfield sends his wishes back to him. So it's really, really, really cool. And that's how we experienced Okap last time we went. And Macul drove us around. He hooked us up with some contacts for the Citadel trip we took. One of the first stops we made was actually at a hotel called Call Me a Beach, and it was pretty cool because we had just arrived in Okap and we had just enough time to catch the sunset and go hit the ocean. So we went to a beach right at Call Me a Beach plage, and we were throwing the football around. We taught Marcul, our tour guide, how to throw a football. Got some beach time in, ordered some food, and then got some drinks there. And for people who may have heard of Kanye West's recent, trip to Haiti, that there's a video of him and there's like a dance ceremony taking place where he's visiting Haiti with the ex-president, the current president or most recent president of Haiti, Jovenel Moïse, who was recently assassinated, unfortunately. There's a video of Kanye West and Jovenel Moïse enjoying some dance performances and some food, and that's literally where Winfield and I and Marcul had dinner that day. And so when we were there, that's what I had in my mind. I was like, wow, Jovenel Moïse and Kanye West were here. What a random combo, because we never expected Kanye West to visit Haiti, but he just randomly popped into Haiti and supposedly had some business opportunities and projects he wanted to work on down there. So that's where we visited when we went down to Okap, and it's another place I would suggest going. It's called Me Beach. It's a really, really nice beach. You've got a volleyball court, sand volleyball court there. You can order drinks right from the bar, really close to the water, and it's really, really, really nice. And not to bring up a somber topic, but that's what I had in mind when we were there. Winfield is Jovenel Moïse having dinner with Kanye West, in Haiti. Like what? That blows my mind. I remember staying up to date on how it was going, what was happening, why he was there. We don't know, no one knew. And Naomi Osaka was there, and obviously, she's half Haitian, half Japanese. So it was like really, really weird, and that's what I had in mind. But unfortunately, it's really sad what's going on, what's happened down there with the assassination of our president. And it's something that has really, really just shaken the country and shaken the Haitian people, shaken everyone really up, because, a president doesn't get assassinated, every day. That's not something that's common. So, again, back to the politics and everything that's going on down there. It's unfortunate that there's always something going on in politics back home, and it's really unfortunate.
No, exactly. And first of all, of course, The passing of President Moise is absolutely terrible, as you said. I mean, irrespective of one's politics, there's no room for physical violence whatsoever, and gang intimidation, etc. And we really hope that Haiti can persevere through this storm, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but hopefully things can get back on track. There's elections due next year, and there's hopefully a fresh start in Tails for that. So, but at Macul, I hope you're listening. Ça va, mon frère? How's it going, my man? It's been a hot minute, but I really hope to get back there and see you. This guy is absolutely, he's the best. He'll hook you up, take you wherever you need to go. He's super personable. We actually met his brother.
Yeah.
Brought his brother out while we were there, and his brother was talking about taking us to the DR border, because I was telling him I go to a new country every year for my birthday, and set foot in the DR, maybe cross up another country. So he was and he was willing to do that out of the goodness of his heart as well. So I mean, that just shows you right there. If you make a genuine connection with somebody, you know, you take care of them, they'll take care of you, and that's really what traveling is all about.
That's exactly what it's all about. And yeah, that's a great example of how, you know, most Haitian people would have done the same thing. Obviously, some can do more than others, but in Marcul's case, he had a car. He was off of work for a few days, and he said, okay, well, let's make a very, very good, valuable deal with these guys who he's never met. And, you know, because he saw that, he had mentioned that as well. He said, you know, because I see that you are a good person, you're a good Haitian person who doesn't necessarily live in Haiti, but is willing to take someone from a foreign country, bring them into Haiti. And for Winfield to be so open to experiencing Haiti and to speaking with the Haitian people, that's really what the Haitian people are all about. And to know that Winfield was able to experience that, and I was able to facilitate that, you know, that was really, really such a blessing. And a lot of times I would say, yeah, if you make it, like Winfield said, if you make a genuine connection with a Haitian person in Haiti, cherish it, nurture that relationship, and, you know, be reassured that they are not going to necessarily try to do something malicious. And, you know, yeah, there's got to be a level of trust factor there. But if you can build that with someone down there, it's just, there's no price on anything. There's no price on that alone. Haitian people are very friendly, very resilient, very warm. That's what we're known as. So definitely make sure to make some connections if you go.
No, indeed. And it's something that friendships last a lifetime, right? And if you can nurture that, and you can cherish relationships, and even if you meet the person briefly, if you can keep up with them and make an effort, that's important. And going kind of back to Port-au-Prince, the one area that might be of interest to some people is Pétionville. So give us a little background on PV and some of your favorite haunts there on the culinary scene and otherwise.
Man, I love that you said PV, because then when you refer to Pétionville as PV, you're just a local. Like you already you know you got your Haitian card already stamped, man. you're no longer in tourist mode. You're in Haitian visitor mode. Like you've got your pass now. You can come in. But no, PV is a very cool area. It's in the foothills above Port-au-Prince, overlooking Port-au-Prince. And it's now the new area where you've got a lot of businesses, you know, setting up shop at. Before, it was more so in the, you know, lower area in Port-au-Prince, near the port. You had a lot of commerce and a lot of business happening there. And Pétionville used to be actually very much a residential area. And then over time, I would say between when I was born and now, I've seen Pétionville become still residential, but also more of a commercialized area where you see more you see more businesses setting up there. So if you go there, I would say you want to buy certain what do you call it, souvenirs, and you want to experience some restaurants. You want to see certain areas where business is happening. That's like the new area to visit. Obviously, there's still business happening downtown, where we call downtown, closer to the main port. But and closer to the airport area. But if you go up to Pétionville, that's where you see a lot of the newer businesses and more, a little bit more upscale, more luxurious, restaurants you'll find there. You still got a lot of residential neighborhoods. But again, even those neighborhoods are now starting to see a rise in businesses. A lot of the embassies are located in Pétionville area. And then if you go past Pétionville, you're just pushing more into more and more residential. Once you go higher up the hills, you're hitting an area called Kinskoff and La Boule. Those are areas where you're going to find more residential neighborhoods. But Pétionville is definitely the it area to visit if you want to see a more like a centralized area to see lots of different aspects of Haiti, especially near the capital. You've got some really high-end restaurants that you can visit out there. You've got a lot of hotels in Pétionville as well. One of the more famous hotels in Haiti is Hotel El Rancho, and that's a hotel that is located in the lower parts of Pétionville, but you've got a casino there. You've got a beautiful pool. It's where Mick Jagger used to stay, where a lot of high-end musicians back in the 80s and 90s would visit there. 70s, 80s, 90s would visit Haiti when Haiti was a more prosperous country and where tourism was really booming at the time. They would stay in Pétionville, and that's where a lot of the nicer, more luxurious, high-end areas of the capital are.
No, definitely. And kind of a segue into that as well is it's really a hotspot of Haitian culture because there's obviously the Haitian diaspora, roughly 1 million Haitians living in South Florida. Of course, there's a unknown number in Canada, but the culture has been a very important export. And if you look, we went to a couple art galleries. We actually met a world famous chef in the elevator coming out of a party.
Yes.
We met this also up and coming DJ in the South Florida music scene. So just the access to cultural figures was really astounding to me. What would you say to somebody that's going down there and just is not used to that level of access?
Yeah, I would say be open to it. Make sure, again, going back to planning, ideally, if you have someone who's connected and can show you the different parts of the country, you've got, like when Phil said, in one place, you can see such a high-end level of entertainment and nightlife, but at the same time, unfortunately, as you're leaving the venue, you can come to interact with some of the folks who are not as fortunate as the ones who are enjoying and partaking in a dinner at, let's say, Hotel Caribe, for example, which is where we went to. Beautiful hotel. But once you leave, we had a conversation with some kids who were just, in the street, didn't have a whole lot, but, asking for money, helping folks find parking, which is very common in Pétionville. But when you speak with them and you speak to the kids and you get to really know what they live for, what they believe in, it puts it in perspective to be able to see that within one night out. It's a lot. And going back to how warm the Haitian people are, I would say, to answer your question, I would say talk to people, be open to talking to people and to asking people, hey, what should I do for this? Where should I grab food for this? Hey, I'm trying to get a drink. Where should I go? Listen to the people who are there and just don't be afraid to talk to someone. A lot of Haitians, whether, they're fortunate or unfortunate, not as fortunate and living under the poverty line, a lot of them do speak English. Like I said, Haitian people are very curious and a lot of them do speak English. So don't be surprised if, the person who's serving you at the grocery store or who's serving your table at a restaurant, they speak English. A lot of Haitians speak English. Obviously, our main languages are French and Creole, but a lot of folks do speak English down there. And if not, there's a universal smile that works a lot of places. You can communicate with someone with gestures, but I would definitely suggest, even if you go to some of these hotels in Pétionville, for example, or some of these venues outside of Pétionville, even just go visit and they'll let you in and you can take a look around and visit and not necessarily have to spend money. People will be happy just to show you around. And if you say, hey, it's my first time in the country, I want to check it out. Get out there, go and visit. Obviously, again, I'm gonna repeat this just because I want to give the disclaimer out there. There are times when Pétionville and the capital areas are hot and chaotic, and there's chaos and violence happening in the streets. So if you can get in touch with someone who either lives down there or has lived down there and has ties down there, it's the best way to experience it, because they'll be in the know. They'll know what areas are stay away areas, maybe because there are a lot of burning tires happening in that area, or there's a manifestation or a protest going down, or planned protests happening. Again, with the spread of information and how fast people can broadcast a WhatsApp message, it lets everyone know what area. A lot of people know who live down there, know what areas to stay away from on any given day. So if you are in the capital, I would highly suggest, getting in touch with someone down there, or reaching out to a travel agency. Even there are many travel agencies actually based out of Pétionville that will be able to give you that information. But if you want to see the different aspects and see the DJ who's the biggest up and coming DJ, my old friend of mine, DJ Bullet is his name. You want to see him perform if he's in town. He's moving around nowadays, but if you want to see him perform at Asu Lounge or something like that, go to Asu Lounge, but don't stay away from stopping by on the side of the road. If you see a band playing, or a rara band, which rara band is like what we call musique racine, and that's really just what you hear at a Haitian carnival. A lot of times on Sunday evenings, you'll see a rara band, moving through the streets of Pétionville. Don't be afraid to vibe out with them. Obviously, be safe. Show respect to the Haitian people. Show respect to anyone you meet down there. But you can see so many different sides. You'll hang out with folks who are from the countryside, and they listen to different types of music. So you wouldn't know that if you didn't talk to the Haitian people. So biggest advice is just get out there, talk to people, communicate, interact with the people, and you'll see so many different sides of the country.
Definitely, all that's great advice, and we have to take things with a grain of salt, because, as you said, there are big disparities and levels of coming out of a place where obviously you've been fortunate to have great privilege to dine or to be entertained there. You just have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. So that's definitely fantastic advice. But thanks so much today for all of your insights, Cliff. We're now going to do what's called our signature lightning round, where we're just going to fire off 10 questions at you.
Okay.
Whatever comes to mind, just go ahead and spout it out. But are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Let's do this pop quiz or whatever.
All right, sounds good. One wish. What's that? Yeah, drum roll. Exactly. Do it.
Let's do it.
One wish. What would it be?
One wish, what would it be? For more people in the world to listen to one another and be more compassionate to one another.
Fantastic. Which country do you want to visit the most, and why?
Ooh, I definitely want to visit. That's tough. I want to visit. I would say Senegal, just because I've heard so many great things about it. It's a coastal country. I love the beach. I want to visit the beaches there. And I remember meeting a friend of mine from there, and she was, she spoke so highly of it that I really would love to visit Senegal.
That makes two of us. Might have to link up for that one.
We might have to, man. We might have to.
What's one place or activity in Haiti that you would like to do that you haven't experienced yet?
I would like to. Ooh, that's tough. Honestly, just really simply, I would like to hit up that zip line. There's a zip line in Lavaki. It's the longest. Yeah, it's the longest overwater zip line, and there's a lot of controversy there because, when the cruise boats were docking in Lavaki, the folks who were accessing Haiti on the cruise ship had access to the zip line, but even the locals didn't have access to the zip line because it was an area that has been pretty much closed off to the locals. Some locals work there, but they can't, Haitian people can't just access it from the mainland. So you have to come onto the cruise and be on the cruise to have access to it. So it's a zip line that I've never had access to because I haven't gone on a cruise to Haiti, but I would love to do that. It's like I said, longest overwater zip line. It looks really fun. And hopefully one day, once things open back up, they'll work out a negotiation. I know there's deals with the government that were made back then. to block that area off from the Haitian people who were not on the cruise. Hopefully we can work some deals out so that one day I could check out that zip line.
Indeed. Strangest thing you've eaten?
Strangest thing I've eaten would have to be, what would that be? It would definitely be crickets.
Okay.
Yeah, I had crickets in TJ, so that was, I don't know why. I don't even know why I tried that. That's not like me. I don't like to try stuff like that, but yeah.
Hey,
I'm sure there are weirder things.
Push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's what it's all about. Favorite thing about Haiti?
Favorite thing about Haiti is just the Haitian people, the warmth and how easily it is to interact with a Haitian person, to laugh with them, whether you know them or not. But for them to also just be supportive and be there for you. Kind of like Macul, our tour guide. That's literally what I love about my people. And that's what I try to spread all over the world when I try to, visit other places myself.
No, indeed. Completely agree. One tip for travelers?
Just in regards to Haiti or just in general?
In general.
In general, I would say open your heart and open your mind, like when you're traveling. That's what traveling does for me. It allows me to just be more open to doing something that I wouldn't do back home. So whether someone's traveling for business or whether you're like Winfield and Chris here, who are like the world travelers and just, travel almost, more than anyone, I would say just if you're going to a new place, be open-minded, be willing to talk to the person that might be on another business trip and has never gone there as well. Just be more open to trying new things.
Definitely. No, I think we both completely agree with that. And in terms of getting around Haiti, what is the best mode of transportation that you recommend?
Definitely a 4x4 vehicle, preferably one with AC. It gets hot, gets dusty in certain places back home. So a 4x4 will get you around. Haiti is a very mountainous country. Haiti itself, like the term Haiti, means land of mountains, I believe. And so, a lot of mountains, a lot of hills. Definitely the best mode of transportation. If you have access to like a 4-wheel ATV, you can access even more areas with that. But if you've got like a 4x4 SUV, you're good.
What's your main motivation to travel?
Main motivation to travel, I would say, is just to learn, grow, and just connect with people, places. Just again, the more you connect and the more you speak to people, I think the more you grow, the more you put yourself out of your comfort zone. So I would say, traveling is fun and you get to see a lot of places, but seeing is one thing and then experiencing and connecting and talking to people is a whole another thing. I've gone to places as a kid where I traveled and I was just like quiet. I just stood behind what my parents did. And, if they wanted to go and visit a museum, I would go to and see cool things. But I've also traveled as an adult and as a grown man alone by myself. And I didn't just go and see things. I talked to more people. When I was a kid, I couldn't do that because my mom would pull me and be like, yo, don't talk to so-and-so. Like, don't talk to strangers. Or, yes, I know they look like a nice person, but you're with us. You can't talk to them right now. So to me, like, that's traveling. Yeah, I've gone to travel. But for example, I went to Jamaica when I was 15 with my parents. But I would love to go to Jamaica again as a 30-year-old and to experience it just off of my guts and my intuition and my, desires as to how I want to experience the country. So.
No, indeed. Couldn't agree more. And final question, if there's one experience in your life that you could relive, what would it be?
Oh man. One experience I could relive. Shit. I don't even know, man. That's such a tough question because I'm a firm believer in like taking whatever happens and making the most of it, or whether it's fixing it, learning from it, growing from it, forgetting it. So I don't like to relive. I like to just pivot off of moments that happen. But if there was one thing I could relive, it would probably be just taking a Euro trip by myself. In 2013, I got up and just took a trip and just went. I booked, I think, like 6 or 8 days before my flight out of Dulles, Virginia. And I hit up a few different countries, visited some friends and family in London, hit up Spain, and then went to Netherlands and Belgium. But just getting up and going, and then like the act of purchasing the flight right before I went, that was a cool moment because I was like, you know what, I don't know what to expect, but we're just gonna do it.
Exactly.
And I think there's a benefit in taking that and applying it in different situations in life. You may not always know what you're in for, what you're going to see, or what sites you're going to come into, or people you're going to come into contact with. But if you just do it and are determined to do it and get through it, I think, you'll be just fine, man.
Exactly right. That's a perfect way to end. Great wrap up. Thanks so much for your time today, Cliff. We had a blast. Really enjoyed all the insights that you've given us, and to, of course, just recounting our time down there. Hopefully we can do that again soon sometime.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for setting this up. I wish you guys nothing but, the best with this. I think it's a positive. The purpose of it is all positive. Just motivating and encouraging people to get out there, sharing you guys' personal experiences and others' personal experiences. I'm happy to be a part of it. And again, if anyone is thinking about going to Haiti, wants to get some insights, some advice, or if maybe, want to go with me. And once I set up my travel agency or something like that,
exactly.
Definitely reach out. And if you want to get through to Winfield or through Chris and want to reach out and want to learn more about Haiti, I'd be happy to speak to anyone about it.
I'm so happy you said that, because during this entire time, I was thinking about jumping on Skyscanner or Momondo after this, seeing how much the price is to get down there, man.
Yeah. No, I would definitely suggest going. Right now it's a very dark time for Haiti. A lot of businesses have opted to just either scale back or just to hold off. Obviously, business is moving again back there after the incident that's happened, the assassination of President Moise. But I would definitely visit towards the end of the year. It's always fun. Carnival time is always fun because there's a lot going on, lively, everything is lively. But any time of the year, really. Obviously hurricane season is also August-ish. It's about to hit all the way through September. So be mindful of that if you're planning on going down to Haiti. But yeah, outside of that, any time of the year, and just make sure, again, plan, do your research, and you'll be fine.
I'll have to hit you up. Really appreciate the time, Cliff.
Of course, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the day.
Same to you, bro. Take care.
All right.
Thanks.
Peace.
Man, that was awesome. If that doesn't make you want to get down to Haiti, I really don't know what will. It was amazing to hear all about Cliff's experience growing up and hear all of his insights, especially how he was able to take Winfield and have those shared experiences throughout his country and really show all the greatness that is Haiti. So I appreciate his time. And of course, Winfield, you guys had an amazing experience together.
That we did, and thanks so much to Cliff. He's hopefully given listeners a new lease in terms of Haiti, a vision for Haiti, and also what they can expect down there. It truly is a beautiful country. There's a lot to see and do, and hopefully you can experience it sometime soon. But until next time, take care and stay traveling.
As always. And you can find us on social media, Locales Unknown. If you want to reach out to us, we're at contact@localesunknown.com. We will be back here next time with some more guests, some more advice, and some great thoughts for you. Take care.